You've seen the title. It seems a little bit ridiculous, but how did selling my favourite lens improve my photography? And if it was my favourite lens, why did I sell it in the first place? So I think what we need to do first of all is kick off with what was my favourite lens. If you've been here a little while now, you'll know that I absolutely love the 28mm focal length. And if you follow me over on Instagram, you might have seen in a bit of a moment of weakness that I was selling most of my Leica gear. I was selling my 28mm Elmarit, my 35mm Summilux, my 50mm Summilux, and my M10. Fast forward a couple months, and for all of the stuff that I was selling, only the 28mm Elmarit has sold, and that's probably the one thing that I didn't want to sell. That was my favourite lens because I love 28mm, and that new Elmarit is just a cracking lens. I'm also transitioning some of my Fuji gear at the same time, and that has still meant that I haven't got my hands on the 18mm f1.4 that I want over there as well. So as I sit here now, and for the last couple months, I haven't had my favourite focal length. The only way I've been able to get 28mm is through using a zoom lens. But this really got me questioning something, and that was, have I become too comfortable with 28mm to the point that it's actually having a detrimental effect on my photography because I'm picking it up over everything else? This lack of a 28mm really threw me off, and I looked at my other two lenses that I got the choice out of, the 35mm and the 50mm, and my head just instantly said, well, you pick the 35, that's the closest lens. This got me thinking then, why is it that my brain seems almost wired to pick the widest lens option I've got as my staple? And I've come to the conclusion that an element of it is a bit of FOMO, a bit of fear of missing out. If I pack a 28mm, I can always crop it in a little bit, but if I pack a 50mm, well, I can't exactly zoom out, can I? And because of that, I worry about when I go on trips that I'm just gonna miss photo opportunities, and the trip to Venice maybe highlighted that a little bit because Venice is quite cramped and narrow streets that you just can't back up from some subjects enough to actually be able to fit them in the frame. So in that case, my fear of missing out is kind of correct. I am missing out. I am missing shots that with a wider lens I could have got. But a couple months later, having sold that 28mm and having predominantly shot now 40mm and 50mm lenses, I've come to a different conclusion, and it's one that I should have probably realised a couple months ago, but because I was so focused in on 28mm, I just hadn't appreciated it. And that's the fact that carrying a 50mm gets you shots that you could never get if you only had a 28mm. It seems obvious, but this really hadn't clicked in my head until I was forced to ditch 28mm altogether. And to see how much this kind of fear of missing out had affected my photography, what I'd done is I opened up Lightroom and filtered it to only show me images that I'd taken with my 16 to 55mm f2.8 Fuji zoom. The reason behind that was this zoom lens includes both the 28mm and the 50mm full frame equivalents within that zoom range. Now, filtering to this lens, initially it doesn't surprise me. There is a pretty good mix of focal lengths, which you'd kind of expect using a zoom. But if I filter it to just the images I liked, something really stood out, and that was the fact that an awful lot of the images I like, and by far the majority of them, was actually taken at the far end of the zoom. So this really got me thinking, hang on, I'm opting for a 28mm, but every time I put a zoom lens on, I end up liking the images taken towards the far end of it. My actual preference when it comes to the images is longer photos, and I honestly did not see that coming. And to push this even further, if you've been following along with the channel, you'll see that I recently picked up a Ricoh GR3X, and I picked up the X variant because that is a 40mm lens rather than the non-X variant, which is a 28mm. So I was continuing to avoid that 28mm because I could sense by not having it, my photography was actually improving a little bit. So then how have I kind of ended up with this kind of weird love of the 28mm focal length, but a clear, obvious preference when it comes to the actual images of these longer focal lengths? Now, I've sat and thought about this for quite a while, and I think I've come to the conclusion, and that's the fact that my photography over the last few years has changed quite a lot. My style has moved from kind of traditional landscapes, I used to take loads of them a few years back, into more kind of like capturing moments or scenes that frequently involve people. And that's exactly it. These kind of moments and scenes tend to be kind of far smaller. They're not the wide expanse of a landscape, they're like a little piece of it. Therefore, these kind of telephoto focal lengths are something that would match my style. It's just that my photography progressed and changed, but what was in my bag didn't. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not suggesting that I am never going to shoot a 28mm focal length again. 28mm definitely has its place, and I will be buying a 28mm lens still, even though I sold one previously. Just the difference is going to be, rather than just me defaulting to 28mm because it's that little comfort blanket and I have this weird fear of missing out, I'm instead going to pick up that 28mm when I actually need to shoot 28, and I have this big new appreciation for these longer focal lengths like 50mm. So over to you guys then. If you are using a lens like 90% of the time and it is a fixed focal length, just ask yourself the question, are you using that focal length because it makes you just feel comfortable, or are you actually using it for the right reasons? Because I've found this experience super enjoyable where I've been forced to adopt a different focal length. If you've enjoyed this video though guys, please do not forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to see this 28mm Elmar in action that I've been talking about, then you can see it in my Milan video here, shot on my Leica M10. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!